Ahmed Rashid, who's supposed to be an expert, has never been to Waziristan. So listen, what you have to understand is, what is this Taliban phenomena? What is the ideological element in it? And what is your own tribal people, out of reaction to bombardments and to drone attacks, how many of them have picked up the gun against the state? Unless you understand this, you will lump all of them together. Then you need to understand which is the movement in Waziristan. There is a different movement in Orakzai agency. There's different in North Waziristan, where there's a more on an Afghan Taliban element. Swat is a completely different movement. Swat was a completely different issue. Do not confuse it to the tribal area Taliban. Everyone who's fighting a militant group that picked up arms call themselves Taliban. How many of them are political Taliban, in other words, because of the reaction to the army? And how many of them are ideological Taliban? So, unless you talk to them, how are you going to distinguish? David Miliband talks about the good and bad Taliban. What does good and bad Taliban mean? For him it means Taliban that are willing to talk to the government and the ones that are not. But for us, it's very important to understand, are we just bombing our own people? Just think about the immorality of bombing villages where there are women and children. No one talks about, you're talking about 6 million people in the tribal area that are being bombed. Their economy has been destroyed. They're living in refugee camps. There are about 2 million internally displaced people in Pakistan. How are they surviving? All under the heading of Taliban. And how many? And the extrajudicial killing that is going on. How many times have you heard that so many militants killed? Is there any verification? Has there been any identification? Who are these people that are dying? So this is a crime against humanity, what is going on. And opposing it doesn't mean you're pro-Taliban. Opposing it means you're pro-Pakistan. You care, you have compassion for people who are being bombed. It's like what was going on in Vietnam. How can you bomb villages and think that this bomb exactly knows what is a terrorist? How does it, can a bomb differentiate between women, children and terrorists? Why are these people blowing themselves up? Has anyone asked the question, why are so many suicide bombers? I mean, history hasn't known the number of suicide bombers that have appeared in Pakistan since 2004. We never had a suicide bomber in our history. So, it's very important that you educated people question this. In 1971, when Pakistan Army took action in East Pakistan, I was the one who was standing with the Pakistan Army, our brave soldiers, they're doing this and great job, and it's only foreigners and terrorists and militants. It was 3 years later we realized that the army butchered civilians, women, children. And so we're doing exactly the same thing again. In Balochistan, they were bombing people. How can you bomb people? Is this an army you're bombing? There are people, women, children living there. So if the only politician, why would I? Everyone said, Imran sahab, aapke votes kam ho jayenge. I don't give a damn about if I don't get enough votes. But we must stand up for the truth. What is happening is unless you talk to them, win the people of tribal area to your side, you don't need the army to deal with the extremists. The real ideological Taliban, you don't need your army. You just need to win the tribal people to your side. They'll deal with them.
What do you say about
Sorry? There are 30 Taliban groups today. So try and find out, unless you talk to them. It's not about Hafiqullah Masood or anyone. Talk to them and find out who are the real, unless you talk to them, if you treat all of them the same, you're going to lump them together. You're pushing them all together. And the initial mistake in this war on terror was made when Taliban and Al-Qaeda were pushed together. Surely the intelligent thing, which is now they are realizing, was to isolate Al-Qaeda. Rather than they push Taliban to them. You must understand the extent of the problem, because most of you don't understand. In the tribal area, there are 1 million armed men at least. Surely the intelligent thing is to win them over to your side. Don't push them over to the other side. And this militancy will never end. You know, this area revolted against the Mughal Empire, which had 25% of the world GDP. For 62 years, they fought the Mughals. The 80 years, they fought the British. This area supplied the main people fighting the Russians. Why are we falling into a trap? These are our own people. Win them over to your side, isolate the real terrorists. Don't push them on to the other side. This is a never-ending war.
Thank you. My name is Ishan and I'm an ex-HSO currently studying economics at SOAS. My question to you, Mr. Khan, is that given that 98% of the Pakistani population is disenfranchised from the political system, effectively, not in terms of voting, but because they lack the political capital, the monetary capital, and the influence to stand in elections, according to you, what are the prospects of normal average Pakistanis to actually bring about the effective political change that you're talking about? And what exactly is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf doing for this, given that you're currently charging students £15 to get membership, which is more than what 30% of Pakistan earns in a month? So what are your views?
Yeah, but you're supporting the cause of the change. It's a very low cost for supporting a change in Pakistan. But hold on. Can I just have last 3 questions, please? So that's one. Go on.
Basically, in the short, you said there are 2 problems in Pakistan right now. One is misgovernance and second is war on terror. I think it's one problem, misgovernance is the problem only. Because the thing is, it has never been a good governance in Pakistan since it came into being. So the thing is that I think misgovernance can be overcome by the fair governance. And fair government comes when the fair people come. And fair people comes by the fair election process. I think election process is the main problem. Look, my question is very important. Election process. In 1988, people, let me ask. In 1988, first election means Benazir won, in my age. And then Nawaz Sharif, Islamic Jamhuriyat. General Hamid Gul said, and his statement was, it was made by ISI. On the media, he said this. It means it was won by the establishment. And then they came again and again. If you see now in the present, Hanka and 55, Sheikh Rashid was won. Sheikh Rashid won. And I am coming to the question. I am coming to the we need to make our election process reliable.
That's right. An independent election commission. Absolutely. We are going to the Supreme Court. So that. Go on. Okay. Go on, please.
Given the current situation in Pakistan with the Taliban, what will you do when you get into power to make sure that the youth are more drawn to the religion? Because of, currently they're very anti-religion at the moment. You'll find this in Britain and as well as in Pakistan. So what do you suggest that we should do to convince people to warm up back to religion? And what will you do when you get into power?
Okay, listen. First of all, let me just, this is a very important question for all of you. Now, this whole war on terror is not, it's not a religious issue. It's a political issue. You must all understand this because since 9/11, there is supposed to be some radical Islam that the West is supposed to be fighting against. Not every human community, please listen to this very carefully. Every human community has its radicals, its moderates, majority, and its liberals. You look at any human community, temporarily, in desperate situations, people tend to swing a bit towards radicalization, but it's a temporary phenomenon. Normally, all human beings want the same thing, to look after the families and, live a secure life. Now, 9/11. The problem after 9/11 was exploited. An enemy was created to replace communism as radical Islam. No one asked why did those 9/11 terrorists blow themselves up. What was the reason? That question was never asked. If you asked that question, I remember very well, you were called appeasing terrorism.